Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm Winnie Sun, your host, from Level Up. And now we're doing Level Up Live because we're not filming in studio anymore. And happy Monday to you. And welcome back from the weekend. A happy hello also to my friends from Modern Mom. It's so great to have you with us. We thought we'd share with you the big financial news today. And, I think this is something that a lot of us are watching. I just spent the morning, in fact, on some client calls and chatting with another client who's currently living in Hawaii just as they had a volcano erupt last night. So 2020, my friends, interesting times. I think you can definitely agree with me. This is a time for us to really stay hopeful and grateful for one another. I know so many of us are suffering, so many of our friends and family, my family included, but we're going to get through this time. I'm hopeful, and especially since we're all here together, we're gonna make the best of our situation. I hope our friends in Hawaii continue to stay safe during this time, and many of our friends across the country as well. And if you're joining us on the replay, hello, thank you so much for tuning in. And please do me a favor and include the word comment, or the word comment, including the word replay, so I'll make sure to catch your view, because I certainly don't want to miss you for being here on our show. And if you're joining us live, well, hello and welcome. Let's start with the markets. Let's let you know what happened with the stock market today. The Dow closed up 18 points. The NASDAQ down 13. The S&P down 14. But yes, the big news that you've been waiting for, and I've been waiting for and excited to share with you, is Congress has finally agreed on a $900 billion COVID stimulus deal number 2. After months of failed negotiations, you might be wondering what this includes. Well, let me just start with this, all right? This is not the deal that if you and I were at the table, we would have probably come up with, because I think many of you are going to agree that we wanted to see a bigger plan, a bigger deal, more benefits. But at this point, I think we're just grateful that a plan is coming into fruition, because we know many changes would be occurring on December 26th, the day after Christmas. And a lot of Americans are suffering. You're probably suffering. My family and I, we're definitely suffering in our own way too. But the thing is that we need some sort of financial relief from our federal government. And fortunately, lawmakers finally did agree. We had to keep them in Washington, D.C. to make this happen. But here's where we stand so far, okay? So the enhanced federal unemployment benefit is going to be now, once it's signed, $300 per week for the next 10 to 11 weeks through mid-March. So that's in addition to state unemployment benefits. We do know that over 20 million Americans still are unemployed. So they'll receive their state benefits and an additional $300 per week from federal relief purposes from this next stimulus package. However, that being said, remember the last enhanced unemployment benefit, which expired in July, was actually $600 a week. So again, half of what we saw last time from the CARES Act. Also, the package will pay an extra 11 weeks for unemployment benefits, but that it would also has provisions for the pandemic unemployment assistance and the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation plan, which, as you know, is for our self-employed friends or people who own their own business, right? Or a lot of small business owners actually fall into this category. So they get an additional $100 a week for self-employed and gig workers. So if you're self-employed, that's something to definitely look forward to. Now, I will say some of you are both receiving a paycheck, like a typical wage, like from W-2, and self-employment income. So if that's the case, from 1099 income, so if you're receiving both W-2 and 1099 income, you may also be eligible for that $100 a week. So just keep in mind and definitely pay attention to that as more information comes out, because you definitely don't want to leave any money on the table. Now, as you know, there's over 20 million still Americans unemployed, and that number has improved a little bit, but not substantially, since we're still very much deep in this pandemic. Now, let's also talk about the next thing that I know many of you are paying attention to, and this is the Paycheck Protection Program. For those of you who are small business owners, do know of this $900 billion plan that the government's about to pass here, about $284 billion of that is going to go towards small businesses that have been hit really hard because of the pandemic. This also includes $20 billion in grants for companies in low-income areas, and money set aside for community-based and minority-owned lenders. So do know that there's going to be other programs available to that. Again, really important for you to take a look at. And here's another note too, if you're a small business owner or just a business owner in general, and you took out the Paycheck Protection Program loan from the CARES Act, do know that if everything goes as planned and this gets passed, that business owners could potentially get a double dip. So Secretary Steven Mnuchin has said that you could potentially qualify for a write-off from their COVID rescue money. So that's actually really, really positive for many business owners, especially we know a lot of restaurants in our neighborhoods are closing. So many, almost in every industry, we have Americans suffering right now, taxpayers suffering. So I think that's going to be welcome news for sure. Now, if Congress votes for all this will certainly help clarify to business owners what they can deduct from their PPP loans. So just so you know, those would be examples such as rent, utilities, and other business expenses that they would have to pay. Now let's get to something that I'm sure many of you are curious about, and that is the stimulus check. Now let me start with this. I really was hoping for a much larger stimulus check. I know there was talk about, we saw the CARES Act giving many taxpayers a $1,200 stimulus check. I was actually hoping it would be greater than the $1,200 amount, but unfortunately, how it sits right now, it looks like it's going to be $600 to most Americans, down from the $1,200 that was passed in March as part of the CARES Act. And families will also get $600 per child. Now, this is for individuals who earn up to $75,000 per year and couples who made up to $150,000 in 2019. You will then, if you're in this category, you're going to receive the full sum. Now, as you make more, if you ratchet up to income, of course, that amount will go lower. You won't get the full 600. But if you made up to 99,000 as an individual or 198,000 as a married couple, then you'll still get some money. It'll just be reduced. But if you're above 99,000 or 198,000 as a couple, you will not be receiving a stimulus check. Okay. Also, one thing to note too, mixed status households in which, let's say a family member does not have a social security number, you will also receive payments retroactive to the CARES Act. So that's actually really interesting to pay attention to if you fall in that category. So you might be wondering, when am I going to see this money, right? I think that's really, really important to understand. I'm seeing notes right now that some of you can't hear volume on Periscope. I apologize. Social media is really hard to know when you can hear us, when you can see us. But hopefully you can hear me now because it's really important. Now, when are you going to get the stimulus check? Now Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said today that the first batch of payments, which is about $50 million, could go out at the beginning of next week. So for those of you who usually get your tax maybe refund via direct deposit or something like that, definitely pay attention to it. Definitely pay attention to it as soon as the beginning of next week. So I really want to make sure that you're seeing that. Okay. Now, if you usually get your money sent via check, do know that that's probably going to come later. And if you do get your stimulus check, directly, it'll be right away. Like it'll be probably pretty immediate. But if you're getting a check, you might, instead of a check, you actually could get a prepaid debit card as well if you don't necessarily share your bank information with the IRS. And here's another thing to know also. If you are still due a stimulus check from the CARES Act, do know that the IRS says that you are eligible to also reclaim that money too. And this is something I really want you to pay attention to, because some of you who are watching may have not gotten a CARES Act stimulus check, which was the $1,200 that we talked about earlier. If that's the case, this is what you want to do. It's called a recovery rebate credit, which you will do on your 2020 tax filing. So this year for 2020 tax filing, which usually the deadline is April 15th of next year if everything stays the same. Now, all our tax experts are actually recommending that we file our taxes early this year. So this is especially the case if you didn't get your CARES stimulus check and you expect to get your new stimulus check for this round, as well as the CARES Act. You can actually file the form 1040 or 1040 SR for 2020, and you may be able to receive your previous stimulus check that you didn't receive in what they call the recovery rebate credit. Now, what you want to do is you have more information on this. I want to recommend that you jump on the IRS website, which is irs.gov. Okay, and go on the IRS website. There's information not only on how to get my payment. If you haven't filled this out, definitely go to irs.gov/coronavirus/get my payment. This is where you can enter your bank information. Now, more than likely, you're going to be too late for this round of stimulus to get it automatically put into your bank. So you're probably going to get either a check or a debit card mailed to you instead. But I still recommend you go to this website, plug in your bank information if you have it, and that way, if there's future federal relief, then it automatically gets sent to your bank account, so you're not waiting. You don't want to wait for the government to send you money as much as possible. So again, for those of you who are not in this category, everybody else, maybe you're not getting a stimulus check or you're already set up, do know that it's still recommended by tax experts to file your taxes early this year if you can. All right. Now, more things to talk about. So many more things to talk about. Also, do know that there's more money also in terms of evictions, because you may have heard about this. Now, eviction protection, actually will now help you extend eviction protection all the way till January 31st. Originally, at the end of this month, December 31st, unfortunately, the CDC eviction protection would have expired. It's now been pushed out one more month. In addition, this next round of stimulus, if you will, also has $25 billion that's going to be in a rental assistance fund, which allows our state and local governments to allocate money to many of us who are past due and help us with our future rent and utility payments. So if you are in this category where you are past due on rent and you're not sure how you're going to make that rent, I would strongly suggest that you go and find the resources in your local community as well as your state, and to find out what sort of eviction or renter protections and benefits are available in your community. Really important to do sooner rather than later. If you're in that situation, do it today if you can, okay? So this money would also, this stimulus money also includes about $8 billion that's going to be helping distribution of the 2 FDA-approved COVID-19 vaccines. There's also going to be another $20 billion to make sure that we can get the vaccine shot for free. So that's important to share as well. And about $20 billion is going to be going to states for testing and contact tracing efforts. Also, here's a big one, supplemental nutrition assistance program. We're seeing the worst hunger crisis in the United States for years. And this new package will include $13 billion into boosting benefits by 15% and funding food banks, among other programs. I imagine it still won't be enough. I really was hoping this would be a lot bigger package, but, maybe this is just a package for the next month. And hopefully, come later in January, there will be more relief, because I know many of us could use that. Now, it also includes $45 billion into travel and transportation, which includes $15 billion for airline payroll assistance. We know many of our friends in the travel industry are struggling big time right now. And then $14 billion for transit system and $10 billion for state highways, $82 billion for education, because the government did note that in order to keep schools safely opened, as well as higher education, that they definitely needed more money for PPE. So that's where that is. 10 more billion is going to childcare assistance. 15 billion is going to, this is a new one. This one we didn't see from the CARES Act. 15 billion is going to aid live event venues, movie theaters, and cultural museums. I'm curious about how you feel about that, the movie theater portion, because I do know nowadays a lot of us are, since we're sheltering in place, a lot of us are actually watching movies on Netflix or online or YouTube or whatnot. And, not sure. I just even remember, I think even before the pandemic, the movie theaters were getting quite empty as well. So I don't know. It'll be sad. I do think I love going to movies to see them in person. I didn't get to see them as much, but I'm sure you were in the same situation as well. So hopefully that will help. Hopefully things will be able to stay in place until we can get this pandemic behind us. Now, another 7 billion is increased broadband access. Okay. Now, but do you know this is what it doesn't include? So this new plan actually does phase out emergency Federal Reserve lending powers established by the CARES Act, which expires at the end of the year, and that they're going to repurpose that $429 billion in unused funds. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. Okay. Let me talk to you about this. So I really want to focus a little bit more energy on this portion because I think it's really important, especially for those of you joining us from the Modern Mom community as well. Let's talk about students. Let's talk about another benefit that I think a lot of people may have easily skipped over. Okay. So we know a lot of students, right, didn't qualify for the CARES Act stimulus check, but maybe they were due a $1,200 stimulus check and they just didn't know to request it, or they just didn't get it at all. There's still hope for them, as well as other adults who perhaps got skipped over for a number of reasons. So I had mentioned this previously, but I think it bears repeating. I want you to go to the IRS website. It's irs.gov/newsroom/recovery rebate credit. You're going to see more information about this in the coming weeks, I'm hoping. But if not, I still recommend for those of you who sort of fit those financial sort of areas where you earn, less than $75,000 a year, or maybe less than $98,000 a year as an individual, and a married couple, basically double that number, and you didn't receive your CARES Act check, and maybe you're a college student and you're in this category. You want to definitely look into the recovery rebate credit, because you could receive up to $1,800, the $1,200 from the CARES Act, as well as this $600. So go to the IRS website, learn more about it, and most importantly, make sure that when you file your taxes for 2020, and I'm hoping and I recommend that you file early if you can, make sure that you complete this information and make sure you try to get that rebate credit back, your recovery rebate credit. Okay, so super important. There wasn't much talk about this before. I think it was actually hit the news today. So I wanted to make sure to put that on your radar, because I always want to make sure that you get what's due to you. In fact, the IRS even recommends and tells eligible university students to chase down that stimulus check that they owe. So IRS is in agreement here. Definitely don't be shy. Chase down that money that the government owes you, okay? If you're in that category. So college students could potentially qualify for $1,800 in relief money in 2020. Now, how do you want to do this? If you're not sure, here's my recommendation. You'll want to get help. Either, number one, reach out to an accountant. I just spoke with mine today. Right now is a great time. You can reach out to an accountant, set up a call or set up a Zoom. A lot of accountants are actually doing complimentary consultations right now too. So definitely a good way to go. Or you can also go to TurboTax. And my friends at TurboTax have a system right now. They're making sure that this becomes very easy to use if you decide to file your own taxes. TurboTax makes it super easy. So that's another great option, okay? So do know both areas. Also, taxpayers qualify the Economic Impact Payment, EIP, okay? So do know that's also one to pay attention to. And if you've already been claimed as a dependent on your parents' tax return, for those of you who are students, it could be tricky for you to qualify for the EIP payment when filing for your 2020 return. So be very careful about that. So if you're a student and you're claimed as a dependent on your parents' return, before you do anything, I would highly recommend you talk to a tax professional, either an accountant or a CPA. Make sure you get that done right, okay? Because you definitely don't want to get, and you don't want to risk anything by doing this. Make sure you get this done right. Recovery, rebate, credit, all right? Now, the other thing that this stimulus package doesn't include, I really want to put on your radar because I know it impacts a lot of you, is student loan pause. You're like, that's right, Winnie, you didn't mention that. That's right, because this package doesn't include it. So, as you remember, this was already extended until the end of January. That now has not been extended anymore so. So you will have to start making your student loan payments starting the end of January and beyond, unless something gets changed later on. Maybe President-elect Biden makes a change. But at this point, that's how it's going to cease to exist. The stimulus package won't extend payment pause for student loan borrowers right now. So if you are in a situation that you're able to make a payment towards your student loans, it will go and pay off some principal between now and the end of January. So it's definitely not a bad thing if you're in a position that you can. And I realize many people can't, but I just thought I would share that with you if that happens to be your situation. Now, if no action is taken, 42 million borrowers, unfortunately, with student loan will have to resume their payments in a little over a month. So lots to think about. The other thing I want to talk about real quickly, because a lot of people have been asking me this lately, and I want to make sure I address this. What should you do with your stimulus check if you receive it? Now, I really want to talk about this because I know it's a very polarizing question. All of us are in a complete different situation, and to generalize one group versus the other is really hard to do so. And I know it's so much easier if I would just give you a straight answer. But here's the truth of the matter is, like, everybody's different, right? Some of us are receiving a stimulus check and you're still working. Some of you aren't working and you're on unemployment. Some of you are not on unemployment and you don't have a job, and you have literally, you might be living out of your car, or even more dire situations. So it's really hard to say what is best for you. And I think in most cases, you know what's best for you. But for those of you who are still working, right, still have a job, and you receive this stimulus check, I'm going to actually talk to you because I feel like this is an area that we need to talk about. I actually read quite a bit on social media talking about how people are saying the new PlayStation is $599 and the stimulus check is $600, and therefore they're going to match that up. I'm really talking to you. I really want to talk to you about this because this really worries me. Going through this pandemic, I think we've learned more than ever how important it is always to have a plan B, to have an emergency fund set up, right? Easier said than done. I will totally agree with you on that. In fact, most of my clients who are very good in terms of being proactive in their planning, they work with us, we coach them, and we have really great relationships with our clients. Even most of our clients, I would just say, not all of them have a true designated emergency fund. Now, granted, many of them have enough in their checking account, a savings account to pull through an emergency. Some of them have it in their IRAs, maybe their 401ks. That being said, I think they have really understood, and I'm sure you understand too, how important it's really to have a pool of money set aside as an emergency fund. So here's the thing. I'm going to make a couple assumptions, and you just work with me here. Number one, if you still have a job, right, and it's consistent, and you think you're going to be okay until we're past this pandemic, and number two, you're able to cover all your expenses, right? Then I want you to consider doing this with your stimulus check. Number one, of course, is to fund that emergency account. I think that's really, really important. Number two, or maybe even tied at two, I would try to get rid of any credit card debt that you might have. Credit card debt or higher interest debt, that needs to go away. You need to stop getting into that cycle of having credit card debt. And I know there's a lot of you out there who are in this situation. I'm not going to ask names, but if you can, make this your priority. The next thing you want to do is take a look at things like, I think those actually, those are the two main things I would just say. pay off any debt, and definitely put some monies aside in your emergency fund. Now, if you're going to be okay, and you know in your heart that you're going to be okay, and you know you're not going to need to touch this money anytime soon, I might even consider recommending that you look into the Roth IRA for yourself, because this can serve two purposes, not only as an emergency fund, but it can serve as future retirement savings, and you might even be able to invest some of it so that way can potentially help that amount grow. I stand firmly on that. I do think that's important. And I do think it's good financial planning and investment advice for that type of person. You know, when we do financial planning, we do wealth management, it's very hard. And the reason why a lot of times you'll see professionals come on social media and television, and they seem to not give you the they seem not to answer the question that you really want heard. The reason that is because as a financial professional, we have a duty we're legally bound to give you good advice. But in order to give you good advice, we need to know your whole situation. We need to know where you come from. We need to know how much you're earning. We need to know how you feel about risk. We need to know if you've ever invested. All these different questions we need answered before we can give you a true, really relevant and good answer. So take that with a grain of salt. I really want you to pay attention to this because there's a lot of great information out there. But if ever there was a time to really talk to somebody, right? This is the time. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling stressed and you're feeling angry, find someone to talk to. You know, maybe reach out to someone in your local community, maybe in one of your elected professionals. See if there's resources out there for you. You know, do know that you're not in this alone. But you don't need to feel so overwhelmed and just sad and everything else. I've been seeing a lot of it on social media. I think it's really unhealthy. So I want to definitely share that with you, okay? The only way to combat negative thoughts is to bring along the positive thoughts. And it's not easy. It's certainly not easy. And I know many of you are struggling financially and overwhelmed, especially you've got financial issues, you got the stimulus package, you got the holidays, and so many of us somewhere on earth, so many of us in different parts of the country and different parts of the world are suffering in ways that you and I don't even understand and don't even know about. And I just want to share that. I hope to take a moment to put the financial aspect on your plate. So so you know what to expect. Those of you who are receiving a stimulus check, look forward to next week. I'm hoping you'll get your check sooner rather than later into your bank account. If not, maybe you'll be getting a check or debit card. Hopefully sooner than later. I don't send out those checks, so don't keep me on that timeline, okay? But do know that this is a time where we need to dig really deep and come together, share kindness. Do me a favor, if you're watching, try to share as much kindness on social media these days as you can, because you just don't know who you're going to impact in any given moment. I'm going to tell you, I have a dear friend, I got to say, a gentleman by the name of Roger Wakefield. Okay, remember that name, Roger Wakefield. He's actually one of the most followed plumbing professionals on YouTube and literally one of the nicest human beings. So yesterday night, went by the office, and lo and behold, he has sent me a package the size of my Costco folding desk right now. It's like a big package. And let me tell you, he sent me barbecue. He sent me a huge case of barbecue. Do you know, I've had a really bad weekend, had a really tough week last week too. And he sent me, this is Roger Wakefield. He sent me barbecue. And it just reminded me of why we do what we do, why I do what I do, why it's important for us to always remember, keep perspective, right? When things seem to really be down, you forget that there's other people out there who care about you, love you, who need you, who understand you. Roger Wakefield is working his tail off all over Dallas, Texas, and beyond, helping other people in their profession. He's going into people's houses, helping them with their plumbing and whatnot during COVID. He himself and all the people that work with him and people that he talks to, they're heroes too. They're really quite frontline because, they have to take those risks in order to keep that paycheck going too. So I just thought I would share that with you because I think it's really easy. I mean, I started almost this weekend. I was starting to get really, really depressed. I was having a pretty bad weekend. And then Roger's gift came and literally completely changed my perspective. And today, I'm telling you, we got to share positively. We got to make sure we're in this together, regardless if you're getting a stimulus check or you're not getting a stimulus check, and what the government does and when all that happens, and whether all these other things that we read about. Don't let it get to you, because it's so easy to, and life is so short. Okay. So with that, I hope that you have an incredible week, because I'm going to come back to you tomorrow. At first, last week, I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's been so overwhelming. My kids out of school. Maybe I'm going to take some more days off, but let me tell you, I'm going to pull off my Roger Wakefield. I'm going to pull strong, and I'm going to make sure that I get you through this process this week. The financial markets is open. I'm going to make sure to come to you as well. All right. So stay strong. Know that I'm here for you, and understand I need your help. I need you to go out. I need you to share positivity with everyone that you know today. Okay. Just send a message. Just say, I was thinking about you. And better yet, do it not only privately, but do it publicly, because there's a lot of negativity going out in the social universe right now. And we need to go out there and push positivity out, right? Thank you so much for tuning in as we meet people who are also in the trenches, moving mountains, getting stuff done like you and I. We're talking trending and sharing real stories that you can use. This week is going to be shorter than normal because of Christmas. So do know we won't be coming to you live on Friday because the market's closed. And of course, I want to make sure that I have family time as well. So thank you so much for watching, supporting our program. Thank you so much, my friends from Modern Mom, for also joining us today, sharing the show with those that you love. Be well. I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Take care now. Bye-bye.